Ariana wrote our exhibition text for us and was a major collaborator in our dreaming of this exhibition. And so it's meant a lot to have the last few days at like the tail end of this show, thinking through all the themes again, and I'm excited to share them with you. I wanted to just point out that you guys all being here tonight and us gathering together in community around art, ideas, and creativity is in itself a radical act. So thank you for choosing joy with us tonight. Yeah. Okay. I don't have bios, but this is Ariana. And this is Isabelle. Both very multi-talented individuals in the room with us. I'm Libby Werbel. I'm the curator of the exhibition. I'm going to facilitate this conversation, so the only time you really will see me chime in is when we are getting so out into the cosmos that I need to like bring us back to the room. Unless you guys want me to keep playing. We're going to play it by ear. It's like, is it a reading? Is it a conversation? It's gonna just be what it needs to be. We have poetry to offer you. We have a really significant poem for this show that will be presented to you at some point, and maybe in parts, maybe all together. But to start off, I thought we could talk a little bit, Isabelle, on how you came to be here and how we came to this exhibition.
Yeah, the first time I came here was for a Math Basel show 2 years ago, I think. Is this loud enough?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all for coming out. It's so great to see such a packed house.
Did you get your picture?
I got my picture. It looks great. Yeah, I first came for Math Basel show, which was an incredible weekend, and spent the weekend with Sarah and Libby. The show itself was so moving and really like a portal for me. And we went to the waterfalls and we experienced the whole Portland thing, magic. And Libby and I were in conversation after that, or before that too.
Well, I mean, I think a big part was getting to meet Sarah too,
Yeah.
who's the executive director of the space and the collector that we're all here because of. Yeah. So I think that was when we met Sarah. And started kind of thinking about what it would be like to bring some of your work out.
Yeah, and then you and Sarah came to my show. So I really think of art as like this call and response across time. So I love conversations that kind of jump into other times. And I was doing a show with Robert Therian, and Sarah and Libby came, and it was Robert passed a few years ago, and it was in his studio and home. And we did this exhibition between the two works. And you guys came, and we started thinking about what we might do here. We weren't thinking at first that it was going to be with Louise Bourgeois. And last January, I was in my studio, we were thinking through what the show would be. There was a big fire in LA. It came right up to like the back of my studio. The studio ended up being okay, but I was evacuated for a few months. And in that time, Libby sent me Depression Woman, which I had never seen before somehow. And there is something about Louise's work, like the more you look, the more it reveals, the more you think you know there's always more. And I know she didn't sleep, like we know about the insomnia drawings, but sometimes I'm just confounded, like I'll see a piece like this and I can't believe I never saw it. So we were really first thinking about the show like growing around the Depression Woman. And my studio was just like all ash, basically. And I was walking, I had like a very early morning regimen. I would get up at 4 and do these hikes, and I was really hiking in like ash. And I started imagining this meadow growing, and it was coming in my dreams, and it was, you know, like it was growing through me, and I imagined the meadow growing all around the Depression Woman, and that like somehow it would bring her out of her depression, like that you could reach back in time to Louise. You know, this piece was made right when she came to America. She was feeling very isolated. They represent different personages from Paris. And it was like, could we reach back to her loneliness and bring her into this new moment through these, like, this meadow? So that's where it started. Yeah.
And then we invited you to look at some of the other works by Louise in the Miller Mix collection. And I think the more you looked, the more it became clear it was about responsiveness. Either like future responsiveness, like you had already made the work in response, or the work you were making was so perfectly linked in dialogue with the work we had in our collection. It just seemed like a really poetic option for us.
And in some ways, I would say, like, my work has always been in response to Louise. You
Yes.
know, people have been asking me during the show, like, when did you first, kind of come in contact with her work? And I'm sure a lot of people here feel the same. She's such a metaphorical mother. I can't remember a time she wasn't my mother. With your own mother, I do not remember not knowing her. But I do know that when I started the orgy, and this was such a cool part of this process, I was drawing, Orgy for 10 People in One Body is this group of 10 sculptures that I made from 2019 to 2023. And the first drawings were on top of Louise Bourgeois drawings. I had, so many of her books. Actually, my mom and I, that was like our ritual. We would gift each other a Louise Bourgeois book every Christmas, which was Louise Bourgeois' birthday, and we did that for many years. So all the first drawings are like on top of her work, and it's everywhere. Over there, there's a piece. It's the first sculpture in the orgy, and it's the same high polish bronze as the Ark of Hysteria. And I remember, like, the first time seeing the Ark of Hysteria, because there's a thing in her work. There's like always like a contradiction, or there's always two things happening at once. And I'd always, because it was called the Ark of Hysteria, I always thought that figure was a woman. And not until I saw it in person did I realize it was a man, and that she had taken hysteria and handed it back to the one who conceived the idea. And I was like, fuck. And yeah, so in this weird way, she's always been there. And then to get to come here and to be with Sarah and to be with Libby and to get to like spend a lot of the summer just hanging out with this work, I mean, it was a total dream. So it's been...
Well, that bringing up hysteria is a good segue into thinking through the title, which is of this exhibition, which is called The Wandering Womb, and has obviously a lot of meaning behind it. So maybe we could speak on that.
Yeah, so The Wandering Womb is this old idea about, like one of the first ideas around hysteria, that a woman's womb, when she was like kind of going nuts, would actually like come up through her body and like try and get out of her mouth. And to me, that was just like so funny and so like such a Louise idea, right? Like so violent and so funny at once. And it felt just kind of the right title for this conversation, like all the humor and all the terror. And like, that's a terrible idea, but I also feel like my womb is gonna come out of my mouth sometimes. Like I don't wanna be, of course it's a critical thing using that title, but I think we said it, you have been saying it, I am a wandering womb. So what is that when it's been, a term that's been used against one's body? But you also relate to it? So I think that's, really where the title came from. Yeah.
And then as we built this show, we also knew that we needed language to prescribe to it, even though we obviously had a lot of language ourselves. So we invited Ariana in, and we had a meeting with her where we had all of these notes and all of these things we wanted to say. And I think the conversation started, we showed her some of the work, and then I don't know if I spoke again. I think Ariana just said all of the things on my list to us. And
she has a way of doing that, of knowing before you know.
And the invitation was open, so it was just to kind of try to synthesize some of the themes in this exhibition. We've all openly, admitted publicly that we are not experts on Louise Bourgeois' works, and also even experts won't say they're experts on her work because it's so expansive, but that it wasn't necessarily going to be like a bio of Louise and Isabelle. It was going to be kind of some of these higher frequencies that we were picking up. And so Ariana then came back to us with what became the text, which was a poem. Why don't you guys talk a little bit about how you met and how we were even, I mean, Ariana's like a superstar in my mind, so to be able to invite her in and bring her on board as a part of this like incredible cast of participants and collaborators was such a treat for me. How did you guys find each other? Ariana?
Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
You haven't talked.
Hi, I'm sorry, I'm very emotional. Isn't this amazing? Like, they don't need me. Like, I just feel like it's so wonderful. Like, it's just, there's such an abundance of meaning, and meaning itself, I think, is so generous that I was like, you don't need me, but here I am. They don't. Yeah, how did we meet?
We have two different stories.
But because we were trying to remember, but then it had happened already. So, but that alreadiness, I think there's something maybe, hypothesis, that maybe, okay, I'm gonna make a hypothesis that there exists something called feminine time, or like a feminine octave of time, and that in that octave of time is characterized by a quality of alreadiness.
Yes.
Would you say?
Yes, and the way my version of how we met is very much in that time. I was reading The Cow like kind of over and over and over again while I was making the orgy, and I had one of the poems up on the wall when I was making number 7, which is this piece about being consumed. And it was Ariana's poem. And then when I showed the work in New York, I remember it was the last day of the show, and I heard, "Hi, Isabelle," and I turned around and Ariana was standing in front of that piece. And yeah.
Can you describe the piece?
It's a wooden sculpture. In the work I'm using my own body, and I'm kind of like I'm being eaten out by a bear and also suckled by 2 teddy bears. And it's a remake of like the Romulus and Remus story. And it was like a my own working through of motherhood. I made the orgy when I thought I was going to have a child. I'd like prepared my body to birth children, and I birthed 10 sculptural children. So that piece was the 7th. I did them all consequentially. That was kind of at the end when I was like, okay, my fear of being consumed, really, my fear and almost erotic desire to be consumed was embodied in that piece. And when I kind of also realized, like, oh, these are the children I'm making. So that there was like both a loss and like a reciprocity. Like the bear. If you see the piece, you'll probably laugh. Like it's kind of it's seemingly absurd, but it's not. Like the teddy bears are both giving and receiving equally in an almost terrifying way, which really felt so much the tone of the cow to me. I mean, it is a cow. The sculpture could be seen as the cow being suckled as well.
But I didn't know that you had read The Cow.
No. How could you? How would you know?
I had no idea. So, but we had met once prior, and it was actually right after my mother's death. And I was living in LA at the time. It was like late pandemic. It was like semi-pandemic or like late pandemic. End of it, yeah. But everything was still really weird. Everything's still fucking weird. Hamza Walker, who is psychic, brought me into this John Cage thing that Isabelle was part of. And I think I don't know how he even knew I was in town, but I think he sensed that I needed to like sing with the choir. Like if we had been in the same church, it was like, she needs to like come sit with the choir. And we met that night.
We were both playing radios. It was a John Cage performance about transmission, and it was like we were transmitting through these radios and making a choir together, but it was very random. And what was your channel? I was like all country, I remember.
I have no memory of what my channel was. Everybody in playing the radio with, they were all amazing. They were all fascinating and amazing, but for some reason I only remember, like I just like fixated on you.
It was at a carousel and we rode a horse together.
But also, in the pandemic, Ariana, and I'm not sure if that's when you started it, but you were well known for a school that you were running remotely for artists and writers. Isabelle was in your school.
Yes, that's true.
Can you tell us a little bit about your school?
I still technically, I still
Yeah,
exist.
still happening.
During the pandemic, I was at divinity school, and I always loved the idea of going to divinity school. Doesn't it sound? It sounds great, I think. But I didn't actually like divinity school. We'll talk about that another day. So I just started sharing like my pharmacopoeia of texts that have served me when the world has gone away and when everything is horrible. Like the things that I've turned to in the like worst possible condition and the worst times, I was like that, I had that at my disposal. So it didn't start out with any intention of becoming a school, but we started with Rilke's Do You Know Elegies, and you and I studied Milton's Paradise Lost together.
Yeah, so I if you haven't been a part of the Invisible College, I highly recommend it. It's really life-changing. And I came in later, after we had met, and I was working on a piece. I'm really interested in like stories or images that come up in sculpture again and again and again, hence the Romulus and Remus I was talking about before, but I was looking at all these images of the fall of man where the devil was a woman. And I was like, oh, this is so interesting. There's like hundreds of paintings and sculptures of like this female devil snake woman. And I was like, I guess I gotta become the devil. And then Ariana announces that she's doing the Milton's Paradise Lost. So the whole time I was making the sculpture, we were collectively reading the book. And in Invisible College, you don't just like read a book with your eyes, like you read it with your heart. And I think that's what's most profound about the study. And I had never experienced like a kind of reading like that Ariana opened. So it became a huge part of the piece. The piece ended up not being a snake woman, it was just me on a stripper pole. But the stripper pole was the tree of knowledge. It became something really, much more compressed.
Which you were making when I did a studio visit.
Yes, when you came, the first studio visit Libby and I had, Libby came over and I had this stripper pole in the middle of the studio. It's like, this is the tree of knowledge, obviously. And Libby gave me a piece of lava. And lava has actually come into this show in a big way, and it's been a connection throughout, yeah.
Ariana, can you just name a few of the classes at the Invisible College that you've taught, just to give us like a flavor profile of what you're up to?
Yes, but I want to explain something, which is the reason why I choose to study the things that I study in Invisible College is because I've had mystical experiences, and I know that a lot of people have them, but I also know that it's difficult to cultivate like a living relationship with an exalted state of being. It's very difficult. So often when people have, we all know what like a hellish, abyssal, like nightmare experience is because our culture is producing it. Yeah, so we know that, we're familiar with that, and we know numbness, we know survival, we know like managing or whatever. And I've had all those abyssal experiences, but I have had experiences of bliss, and I'm not the only one, but I really wanted to seriously research where and how poetry in particular has borne witness to those expanded exalted states of being. And I really wanted to just like study it, you know? So everything that we've done has been like hunting that and studying that and trying to study it with a lot of curiosity, but also seriousness, you know, like, and that's what's hard about bliss, because like, no, who wants to study bliss? It's bliss, like you just want to experience it, or, you know, or,
Well, you can create ways to invite it in.
yes, but also, one of the way that I understand poetry, or what I think it might be, might have been at least, I'm not sure I never know what it is now, like, I don't, but I think what it at least might have been is a record, a testimony of these unusual states of being that have happened on this earth. And we have this proof of it. And the cultures in which those experiences happened are dead. And oftentimes, even the language in which those experiences are recorded is dead. Like, everything passes away, but there's this testimony that on earth, people have known something beyond. And I just felt like my life depended on cultivating and studying a way of having a relationship with all of this. So in Invisible College, we have studied, let's see, we just worked on the 10 Commandments and the Decalogue. And last year during the LA fires, we were working on the Book of Job. Paradise Lost, which was how I it was the grid through which I metabolized the genocide in Palestine, like studying the devil, studying the fall of man, and studying this story was what we were doing as that, as this particular iteration of that catastrophe was happening. We worked on a poem called The Changing Light at Sandover. I'm curious if anyone in the room knows this poem by James Merrill. Show of hands. Hello, I see you. I acknowledge you. It's like a 500-page poem that was written with a Ouija board. So Merrill and his husband, over I think about 20 years, they were made contact with through the Ouija board, and they wrote this. Well, Merrill wrote it, but it's queer in many ways. Merrill is the poet who wrote it, but it was written through love and communication with the beyond. We worked on Sumerian myth. I don't know if there's any friends of Inanna in the room. Okay, great. Yeah, so, you know, that kind of thing.
And lots of people from all over were able to participate because of the specific time, right? And that, I remember Isabelle saying she also was getting to meet other incredible artists and thinkers through being a part of this college. So we're facilitating a really wide network of dreaming, you know?
What a beautiful way to put it.
Well, I mean, that's how so, okay, let's then distill down. If you guys want, I do want to hear you read the poem, but I would like to like revisit maybe that initial conversation that we had together thinking through this exhibition, and some of the main things you guys took away from that conversation that kind of sparked where Ariana landed.
I want to say one thing to something you said about poetry as a way to kind of leave a trace of a mystical experience. And this last few days, being here with you, we've been kind of poking at this question, like, how do poetry and sculpture, where do they meet? And I think that is a place they meet. They're both a poem and a sculpture is something that you can take in. So it's so immediate, but it's also quantum. You know, so you can like it can hold a mystical experience in something you see. Like a sonnet is one page. A sculpture you see right away that you're walking around it. The sonnet it's like finiteness and infiniteness in one thing. And I think that both poetry and sculpture do that. And I think that is a place where you can hold what a mystical experience is as well.
Sculpture has taught me a lot about spirit, though.
Right.
Like, I didn't, my eyes are weird, and I didn't like sculpture because I don't have stereo vision. I have weird eyes, and I just like don't understand objects or something. I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing, but it took me a long time to understand physical world. And, but sculpture and sculptors have taught me something about spirit. Like I think I've empirically proven or determined for myself, settled for myself the reality of spirit, and part of the way that has happened is through sculpture. There's something very weird about fashioning things in space. It's different from painting, it's different from song, it's different from writing. There's something like of a sympathetic magic in it, or there's a trace of that. It bears a trace. It bears some kind of trace of something very, very old, of why did people carry around those little objects with breasts and a vagina? Like, why did they make that, and why did they carry it around? It's something so peculiar to the human being. And when you make something, it does something to this. It makes you feel a spirit. It's strange, and it's strange that you can make it, and you can make it out of your feeling. Like, how could Depression Woman like fertilize the meadow?
Right.
And Depression Woman, there's something about her uprightness. Like, depression, think about what depression feels like to you. There's something about having an object that's standing to witness that alleviates some of the pressure of holding it in your body. And I've little by little come to understand that there's something a little spooky and ancient and kind of weird, no matter how sophisticated or conceptual the sculpture may be. It retains this magical trace, I think. And that has taught me, accepting that reality has taught me a lot about poetry.
That's so cool. I think, at least in the orgy, I never think of them as sculptures. They're artifacts. I think of the whole thing as a sigil. So it's an artifact of sex magic. And it's a moment of it, but there's most of the sculptures are 6 months to a year or 2 years of magic. So you do feel it. I think you can feel it. That's what I love about sculpture too. That's why when you see an ancient sculpture, you can feel the person who made it singing. You can hear it sometimes. And people talk about singing sculpture. It couldn't be cheesier, but it is a phenomenon. It does happen. It does hold it. And so much of my work is about the work of a sculptor is about how do you let it live, put the life into it and let other people feel it. But that is what sculpture does. Yeah, absolutely. And then you feel it through time. So we feel it does do really weird stuff with time. We feel it from Louise, and it generates something completely new. And we were talking about this earlier, you can't look at any other sculpture without seeing every other sculpture. They don't exist. They're not singular beings. They're just not. You can never really look at a sculpture and just see it. You see the history of sculpture. And you really see that with Louise Bourgeois. You can't not. And that's a quantum experience in itself,
Yeah, it's rhyme. I think it's like rhyme.
Yeah, it is like rhyme. Yeah, it's rhyming through time. Yeah.
Maybe you should read the poem.
Okay.
But can you guys hear Ariana?
Can
Okay,
you
everybody?
hear me?
A little bit more up, if you don't mind, or? Oh, here.
Is it better if we don't use the
No, we need the mics for. Here, you guys a little bit louder. Okay. Oops. Stand over you.
I think there might be some more.
Okay. Oh, is this louder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I can turn this guy off.
Yeah.
I'll just put it down. Okay. So this poem, it just came out just like this, and but there are some notes to it. So I'll read you the poem, and then maybe we'll talk through some of the things that it refers to. But I might interrupt it while I'm reading it. I'm not sure. But it's also on the poster, which I don't know where that is, but it's somewhere in here. Okay. I started dreaming after the fire of this meadow said is. And how is she seeding it, I wondered. Umbilical stem and father bee, or do I misunderstand? Is I wanted to send you The Force That Through the Green Fuse Drives the Flower by Dylan Thomas, but upon rereading it, discovered it's a poem about death, source of power for the Welshmen, and also still the owners of our world. When I feel alone, there are two women who stay by me, my mother and my grandmother, who are dead. When I think of death, I talk to my womb. Why? No reason, except I guess I gave up hope of being heard, and even gave up looking for proof I had some kind of right to take root. I have no proof, but I do. Any blessing gives birth to you. Any love gives birth to more. It's life we dread, I sometimes think, and what Hildegard called the greening. The flower gives birth to herself. She is not the serpent of Coleridge. She is the letter S, the last letter of the word yes. It's such a weird poem. It's such a weird, if I may say, it's such a weird poem. But sometimes you don't, like, you wouldn't, if you had a choice, you wouldn't choose, like, if you knew what you were doing, you wouldn't. But I can explain a little. So I think I will try and explain a little bit. Can I? Okay. So, all right. You heard about the meadow. And you heard how it was fertilized by Louise Bourgeois, but it was but your mind or your soul was impregnated, right?
Yes. And flowers fertilize themselves.
And flowers fertilize themselves, and so does Isabelle, as you heard through the sex magic and other means.
Not just that.
Not just that, but so there's this. So we are already in this realm where the womb is bigger than we thought, and the process, like the fertility process, is much more quantum. And okay, so Isabelle's dreaming of this meadow. How is she fertilizing it? And then I saw the flowers, and I've been thinking about flowers too. Like somehow I think they came to help me or to save me. I think they're here very generously. We're very lucky to have flowers on Earth, even with all the shit. So there's something about the stem and the serpent somehow. There's something about that Edenic space where the stem is the serpent, and it's also a thread somehow. And I feel like you can see it in Isabelle's paintings. And well, you can see it all over. You can see it in there. And do you know this Dylan Thomas poem, "The force that through the green fuse drives the flower"? Do you want to read? It's a really good poem. It's a very sexy poem. I guess I could read the note about it. It's a very sexy poem, but it's about the power that makes things grow. Very, very virile. Will you read it?
Read it. I want to say one thing I looked up. I was just thinking when I had never thought of this when we read the poem before, because we've read it together a few times now. And when you were saying that when you're alone, maybe this is off. Here, take this one. We're down to one. You were saying that when you're alone, you talk to your mother and grandmother who are dead, and then that you talk to your womb. And it, you were in your grandmother's womb, like the eggs that make you were there. So you are speaking across time through something that speaks across time. And I had never thought of that until you just read it. So anyways, but let's get the sexy poem. The force that through the green fuse drives the flower, drives my green age that blasts the roots of trees, is my destroyer. And I am dumb to tell the crooked rose my youth is bent by the same wintry fever. The force that drives the water through the rocks, drives my red blood that dries the mouthing streams, turns mine to wax. And I am dumb to mouth onto my veins, how at the mountain spring the same mouth sucks. The hand that whirls the water in the pool, stirs in the quicksand, that ropes the blowing wind, hauls my shroud sail. And I am dumb to tell the hanging man, how of my clay is made the hangman's line. The lips of time reach to the fountainhead. Love dips and drips and gathers, but the fallen blood shall calm her sores. And I am dumb to tell a weather's wind how time has ticked a heaven round the stars. And I am dumb to tell a lover's tone how at my sheet goes the same crooked worm.
May I?
Yes, sorry, I forgot to put the microphone.
Okay, I think that's like one of the, I think that's like a scintillatingly hot poem. Like, I find it incredible. But it's drawing its power, it's drawing its energy from death. So the force that through the green fuse drives the flower, hoists the shroud. Like, it's getting energy in life through death. It's very like young guy, And what I'm trying to contemplate here with you is what would it mean if you change your energy source, or if you're not going to burn gasoline, if you're not going to burn death, then what is your fuel, and what is the fuse that drives the flower? It can't only be death, because we all die and are reborn. You know what I mean? So if you expand that field, can you still have a charge? Can you still hold a charge? This is an open question. I'm not sure. Like maybe a lot of the art I will make in asking this question won't be good. I don't know. But I'm interested in the force that through the green fuse drives the flower, because it's there and here and everywhere, but it's not just hoisting a shroud, There's something to me very 20th century, it's like very over about that way of being. I don't know if this is making sense. Some of you are probably poets and you know this feeling of like, why are you a poet? Because you're kind of dying at the end of the line, like you're just facing death. It's part of it. But you face it and you overcome it, and the womb overcomes it. Somehow you know death through it, or when I think of death, I go there. Why? I don't know. For some reason, and for some reason the womb is the overcome. It's the overcoming, but it's a difficult thought to think. And
Well, it's also where resurgence now kind of also enters the conversation. Which again, I'm not Mike, but I just want to say that I think resurgence is a huge theme in this exhibition: regeneration, resurgence, the meadow. And I really wanted to point to the word green because that's been coming up a lot this week and in some of the other poems we've been looking at.
And one thing in our first conversation, and something you've continued to say that I can't stop thinking about, which you said to us, and I think you are saying in every part of you, is we birth each other.
That.
And yeah, maybe you could speak to that.
This is taken up in the footnotes. Please see the footnote. So we've been discussing this fertilization process, and what's peculiar about love and reflection, regeneration, what's peculiar about an accurate or a generous reflection is it leads to a reseeding. Not reseeding, going away, but like it gets re-fertilized. Resemination, like something, I don't know. So then, if we think then about what love is, it's really peculiar because we have a lot of fear around it. I think part of what's frightening is the muchness that it could offer. There's something about that generous witness, that spirited reflection, that leads you to create. It re-energizes you. You all know the experience of going dry or going dead and then being brought back to life somehow through witness or through understanding. And it's always a surprise being brought back to life, you know? And I wasn't taught about love like that. Like, I wasn't taught that love leads to more life. It doesn't just lead to babies and fucking and whatever, but it's leading to more. It's just more of everything. And there's something about that muchness that is difficult to think. And there's something about the generosity of it that is also, I have no practice preparing for. I wasn't taught that it was possible to be fertilized, for a meadow to be fertilized by a sculpture. But we have all these examples of regeneration. Nature has many examples of it, and we're of it in ways that we can't consciously grasp. Hildegard von Bingen called it the greening. And it's so wild. So Hildegard was a poet, mystic, abbess, visionary, and the way that she described God was of the greening. This springtime quality that is eternal, that it's like a fresh, tender, young, impetuous springing into life. And I think we have a lot of anxiety about that for some reason. I think that it has something to do with, I just haven't sat down and tried to think about it, I guess. And so, it's like I'm fertilized by you, you know? And so I don't know what it means then if you convert the energy source that you're like, what are you gonna burn? Dylan Thomas is burning death to write his poem. And I like that, like I wanna burn death too, you know? And, but how does it work? Like, what's your fuel? Or how are you, I don't know, what's the like engineering structure if what you're burning is love, but like not in a destructive way, but just got love to burn. I've got so much, I have love to burn. I have enough to give, I have enough to receive that I can run my car on it or whatever, or write my poem, fertilize a meadow.
Make a sculpture.
I don't know.
I was just gonna say, or make a sculpture or grow a flower. And that makes me want you to read this poem. So this is actually not a poem per se, as much as it was Isabelle's way to use language about something that maybe is beyond language, and exactly what Ariana was just talking about. What do we grow? And this is about the sculptures in the room, and more than that.
Yeah, and this kind of, I don't know what you call this kind of text, but it is part of how I make work. Like, I don't really, sometimes I start, in fact, in the show we see some drawings, but I just got a grand piano in my studio. Like, that's how I'm gonna make the next body of sculptures. Like, it's through a song, or it often comes through words. Like, I always, at the beginning of the body of work, I paint the walls white, and then the whole thing gets covered in words, and that's where the sculptures come from. So this was, or like through a song. So this was imagining the meadow in the beginning, like what could each sculpture be like? Before I knew it was a meadow, before I knew it was a sculpture. But a flower that is dragging herself across the floor, a flower that is giving birth, flowers that are breathing, a breastfeeding flower, a flower that is hanging upside down, a flower that is hanging upside down from a chain, a flower chained to the ground, a flower that is shielding the eyes of another flower in her chest, a flower that is blowing in the wind, a wind-blown flower, a living flower, two flowers entwined, a flower that is masturbating, a flower that is alone, a flower that is not alone, a flower that is crying, two flowers fucking, a flower that is smoking, a flower that is blossoming, a flower that is turned on, a flower that is bending towards the light, a flower that is pregnant, a flower to mark a death, a flower to mark a life. So in some ways this is like the instructions for the meadow, and I think I've made maybe 2 of them so far, but like it becomes an instruction. Or like a thing to where to put, I think what Ariana's saying is love, where to put one's devotion, right? Or where to put, I do feel it all the time, like there's so much love, like what the fuck do you do with it all? Where do you put the devotion? So sometimes like an instruction like this will help me to focus it.
It's a beautiful poem, too. Not beautiful. How do I say this? There's something about facing the flower, like turning toward the flower, that wasn't done consciously on my part. It happened in my trajectory as well, and it seems like it might have something to teach us or remind us about the relationship between when things are happening up here and when they're actually happening in the earth. It's somehow, they call it conception, right? When you conceive a new life. There's something about this turning toward beauty that felt for me very taboo. I don't know. It felt deeply dangerous. Because it's so big, and it's like the feeling that beauty gives, whatever that is. I don't even know. First of all, I don't know what beauty is, except for we know it when we feel it, but I don't have some definition of it. But it has a quality of overwhelming too muchness and actually maybe danger for some reason. And I think it's partly because it's so generous. It's actually very, very generous in a way that I'm not prepared to understand. Has something to do with receiving or enjoying. It has something to do with how life itself has a fragrance. Why? But it does, and why is it so beautiful? The materialist will say, because it has to attract the I don't know, like, it has to keep it all going. But it's actually kept going in delight. It all keeps going whatever this soul is that we're all partaking of, there's something impetuous and frolicsome and delightful and beautiful for its own sake that is difficult to deal with for some reason in this culture right now. And I feel like that's why the flower is like, look at my face, like, look at me. I don't know.
I think I was kind of contending with those same things, and the more I looked at the flower, the more I realized that a flower is an expression of responsiveness, you know, and that too was, since we were in such a response with Louise's work, like the face of a flower is the subconscious desire of a bee. So that can seem like, really, they're just trying to attract the bee, that's so stupid. No, it's not. Like, every single part of it is a response to what it imagined the bee wants. And that's like really fraught, right? For a woman, like, that's fraught. But it's beautiful too. And like, the way, every part of its color, every part of its texture, its smell, every nonverbal communication that's communicating so loud that the whole form of flowers are to fit certain moths' beaks, like, it is a response. And I know that response, and I fight it, but it's also like, that is also love. And so what do you do? One does change and become for the other, and what does that make you? You know, but I think that's what I most learned from that.
It's interspecies too.
Yeah.
Like, sex is interspecies. Like, it's all, there's no boundary. Like, that's such a fiction.
I want to ask if either of you have a question for each other before we go. Any final questions for each other?
When exactly did the flower begin for you?
Oh, that might be my same question for you. It really was when I was walking around, like in the moonlight in the ash, and most people are still in LA. We're still responding to that fire. Like, we have no idea really how to rebuild. But I've been dating this mountain that got burned, and my girlfriend, she knew exactly what to do. She just like burst forth in flowers. I mean, 2 months later, this mountain it was like black, completely destroyed. She was scattered in flowers, and she was just fine. And everyone else was like, had no idea what to do. And so I guess that's when it first came, when I first saw those flowers start to come up. I was like, oh, that's a pretty interesting response to a trauma. Like, that's kind of cool. So you guys probably know Ariana's book, The Rose, which is extraordinary. When did the flower first come to you?
I think it started with my grandmother, and I bet I didn't know. I think, isn't it crazy though how nature is, like, complete devastation? It's so like, it's just such a fucked up reality. It's like so great that there's a catastrophe and there's devastation and horror, and it grows flowers. My grandmother was very, very feminine. She was a Holocaust survivor, and she had a particular fragrance that's my favorite smell in the whole world. And when I was a teenager, I was like having a lot of gender issues and trying to dress butch, which didn't really fit me. My grandmother looked at me. I was like trying to look like a jock. It was like, anyway, she was like, oh, Ariana, I guess you're not like me. You're just not sensitive to beauty.
Oh.
And that, I carried that with me. It was so funny because I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm exactly like, it was just a very funny adolescent moment. I was like, I have to hide my flower. You don't understand. Like, I can't be out there flowering. I have to hold this, like, that's what I know what I'm doing, and
I mean, even as we're speaking about flowers, in my head, I'm like, that's cheesy, that's cheesy, that's cheesy. And the wandering room, that's cheesy, that's cheesy. And I've noticed whenever I have that thought, like that's cheesy or I have shame, it's almost always about the feminine. So I walk right towards it. And that's what flower is, right? Like it's a joke. And it's not. You know? I don't know.
It's very serious and it's very durable.
It's very serious.
It grows out of corpses. It faces death. Like it fucks a bee. Like it fucks itself. It's very serious. It's very strong. There's an epigraph in the rose that was said to me by the grandmother of an ex of mine, and because I write about like corpses and slaughter and feminine things, and I was sitting at lunch with her. She's passed into the other world. She was an elder in the Mescalero Apache world, and she told me, she's like, you should write about beautiful things. You should write about flowers. And that was another like I was just like, oh fuck, beauty. Why are the grandmothers like accusing me of having no love for beauty? But I love that. I love having them tease me and push me. And so I've been trying to turn toward it my whole life,
I think I would want to leave it there because it's been an hour. Instead of doing a Q&A, we're all going to be hanging out here and continuing to be in the space together, eating food, drinking wine. We invite you to stick around. And you can ask your questions directly to the people in the room. But I thought maybe we would end with the final poem, and I was wondering maybe if Ariana would read it.
But you should explain.
Yeah, I can explain it.
Oh, yeah. So this is a Louise Bourgeois poem that we just kind of have been reading to each other this last few days. And there's a curator named who was also working with Louise's work and found this book of Louise Bourgeois' poems in Louise's studio. And everything in the poem kind of encompasses what we've been talking about.
It's a sonnet. Louise Bourgeois was a Renaissance sonneteer. It's also extremely hot.
What? She is?
I mean, you've had Dylan Thomas, now you have Louise Bourgeois. I live, I die, I burn, I drown, I endure at once chill and cold. Life is at once too soft and too hard. I have sore troubles mingled with joys. Suddenly I laugh, and at the same time cry, and in pleasure many a grief endure. My happiness wanes, and yet it lasts unchanged. All at once I dry up and go green. Thus I suffer love's inconstancies. And when I think the pain is most intense, without thinking, it is gone again. Then, when I feel my joys certain and my hour of greatest delight arrived, I find my pain beginning all over once again.
Thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you for coming to see The Wandering Womb. Thank you, Sarah Miller-Miggs, for creating such an incredible space for us to be in community together. Thank you, Maggie, for coming out from the Louise Bourgeois Archives for being here. And yeah, please stay and party with us. We love you, and we love being in community with you. Keep creating spaces to be in community together. If we are isolated, they've won.